lionize and he's this and he's that. And it reminded me, it's just like, it's the same thing as when Jesus says, you build the tombs of the prophets, and that's how I know you killed them, because you're the ones that are building their statues now. And it's that same religious thing that will, after the fact, when it's not dangerous to them anymore, take a D.L. Moody or an Elijah or an Elisha and bring them in and lionize them and say, yeah, this is our founding father, when they were alive, you wouldn't have touched them with a 10-foot pole.
I thank thee, O Lord, that I am not as other men are. That sinner, for example.
He nasty.
Look at him cringing at the altar. He's blowing snot. He's shedding tears. He's cringing, Lord. Thank God I'm not as other men. And now Jesus tells us that story, maybe not so colorfully, but in telling it, he says, which one do you think was justified before God that day? The publican beating his breast, crying out, God, forgive me, a sinner? Or was it that Pharisee standing at the altar, looking down his nose? Now here we see, once again, spirituality versus religion in all its glory. There's story after story in history. Gandhi comes into the church and they boot him out. They tell him he'd be more comfortable somewhere else. We can be producing the same kind of a thing. I recall one time we were doing a drama on gang life. The whole idea was we wanted to touch the gangs that were in our area. Not only touch the gangs, but touch the kind of people and circumstances that would relate in that general area. Sure enough, we drew some gangbangers right off of the streets. And I'll never forget, this one woman in our congregation cornered these guys from a street gang outside the church and said, we don't want your kind here. Now, had I not been there, I would have never believed this would happen in my own church. We did the whole thing. We put on the production. We advertised. We did everything because we wanted to reach sinners. And here's one of the saints outside the church running them off as they come in.
You know, and we say we would never do that. And I've got just as indignant as any of these people or as Jack has been. But a while back when I was pastoring in a larger church, there was a lady that we were working with, and she was nasty. I mean, she was a street nasty. To keep herself, I think she had been raped or molested while she's out on the street. So to keep that from happening, she used to crap her pants on a regular basis just to make herself so nasty, nobody would want to be around her. She'd come into church and she'd sit down, and buddy, you could smell her for 12 feet, every side where you could smell her. It was bad. And I can remember how freaked out people were getting. And I started to get freaked out. I was like, oh, wait a minute. That's what we're here for. It took me a minute, but it's like it's so easy to fall into that kind of nonsense. I actually had one of my young pastors say he was in a place in Tampa, Florida. He was down right where the prostitutes, right up the street was a strip club. Right across the street from that little building we had was a trashy little trailer park, and streetwalkers were around there. And I told him, dude, this is great. This is a great spot. He said, no, man. I don't want to do this. I want to reach a better class of people. I said, there isn't a better class of people. There's one class of people. It just amazes me how quickly this stuff gets a hold of us and how easily it gets a hold of us. I was preaching in Africa one time, Jack. I will never forget this. God just thumped me on the ear. I'm preaching in Africa, and people are getting saved. And I mean, it's great. We're having a glorious time. Holy Ghost is moving, and I mean, the place is rocking. And I look down to the left, and here's this girl. She's down on her hands and knees. She is drooling and rolling her eyes and foaming at the mouth and howling. And I'm thinking, cotton-picking demon, come here just to screw up the fun. You idiot. I'm just getting angry. I go back to my seat. I finish the altar call, and she's still there. And I'm sitting in my seat, and I'm thinking, stupid devil, stinking devil, ratty demon, trying to ruin the service. And God said, I sent you here for her, stupid. Go pray for her. I did. Demon came out, got gloriously saved. We forget. We get so wound up in ourselves, we forget what's really going on.
And so on that note, he that is without sin, let him cast the first stone. We want to follow Jesus,
yes.
And we want to see the simplicity of the gospel that was once committed to our trust flourish in this country again. We don't want to see it supplanted by churches that are on the Fortune 500 list.
Yes,
that should tell you something right there. I also want to say that we'll be delayed with our next podcast. I have the privilege of going to Romania to preach a Healing Salvation Miracle Crusade in Bucharest. And from there, I'll be preaching in Germany. I honestly believe that God spoke to me that there is going to be a German revival in Germany that is going to do something that's going to shake not only Germany, but Europe. We'll be back after the 17th of June, right here in Toyota Studios in beautiful Gig Harbor again. And with that, I'm Jack Harris.
I'm Hank Hoden.
And we're signing off. And we're getting out of town.
Before you find us.